Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to depart. This area is an active military motor pool, not a stop on a family tour route. The directive, sharp and imposing, sliced through the air. It was delivered with the inherent commanding authority of a man accustomed to instant compliance. Colonel Marcus Thorne stood his ground, hands firm on his hips, his immaculately starched Army combat uniform appearing strikingly fresh despite the sweltering Fort Sheridan summer heat. The pervasive atmosphere was heavy with the thick scents of diesel fuel, scorching metal, and stale black coffee. Behind the colonel, the rhythmic, heavy clank-soirs of a wrench impacting a lug nut momentarily ceased. Then, a few more tools dropped into silence as the soldiers, clad in oil-stained coveralls, turned their attention to the developing spectacle. The young, beautiful woman being addressed remained entirely still. She was positioned near the front grille of a dusty Humvee, her rental car key fob casually dangling from one slim finger. Her attire was simple and professional civilian wear. Dark, tailored slacks paired with a plain royal blue blouse that contrasted sharply with the surrounding dull olive and tan military equipment. Her long, dark brown hair, a striking shift from the original description, was neatly and practically secured in a high ponytail. Her posture was calm, and her unwavering, steady gaze absorbed every detail: the colonel's rigid stance, the surrounding array of idling vehicles, and the watching mechanics. "I fully grasp that this is a restricted site, Colonel," she responded, her voice perfectly level and composed. "I am here specifically to conduct a review of the readiness reports for the 7th Logistics Battalion." Colonel Thorne emitted a brief, incredulous bark of laughter. A few of the junior mechanics nearby nervously mirrored his reaction with stifled snickers. "The readiness reports?" Thorne repeated, his tone dripping with mockery. "Ma'am, those are restricted documents. You can't just wander onto a motor pool and demand to see them. Who exactly are you affiliated with? Did your husband perhaps just receive new orders for this installation?" Amy Harrington met his condescending, challenging smile head-on, her expression remaining entirely devoid of emotion. She calmly raised the laminated identification badge clipped to the waistband of her slacks. It was a standard, simple visitor's pass, issued at the main entry point. "My name is Amy Harrington," she stated. "I have a scheduled appointment." Thorne spared the pass a dismissive glance, waving his hand in an impatient arc. "A simple visitor's pass does not grant you access to my operational motor pool or my unit's sensitive data. I don't know who cleared you at the gate, but they made a significant error." He took a step closer, intentionally lowering his voice into a patronizing, confidential drawl. "Look, I am certain this is nothing more than a simple mix-up. Why don't you make your way over to the Family Services Center? They can assist you with settling in, perhaps even direct you to the commissary." "I do not require the commissary, Colonel," she replied, her voice maintaining its perfect equilibrium. "I require the maintenance logs for vehicles 7L3 through 7L28. More precisely, I need to review the parts requisition forms and all deadline reports generated within the last 90 days. The sharp specificity of her demand seemed to irritate Thorne far more than her mere presence. His attempt at folksy condescension instantly evaporated, replaced by a cutting, institutional arrogance. This was undeniably his territory, and this civilian woman was directly challenging its established order. "I will not tell you again, ma'am. This discussion is concluded," Thorne asserted, his voice hardening. "My soldiers have crucial work to perform." He spun toward a young lieutenant who was attempting to appear diligently occupied, cleaning a set of nearby gauges. The lieutenant was hovering, looking nervous. "Jennings," Thorne commanded sharply, "escort Miss Harrington back to the visitor center. Ensure she is safely on her way out." The lieutenant, who looked barely out of his initial officer training course, immediately snapped to attention. "Yes, sir." He approached Amy cautiously, his expression uneasy. "Ma'am, if you would kindly accompany me." Amy did not spare the young officer a glance. Her intense focus remained fixed solely on Colonel Thorne. "Colonel," Amy said, her tone a clear warning, "I am advising you to check your official calendar. You were formally notified of a readiness inspection originating from the Joint Staff 2 weeks ago. My name is explicitly listed on that directive." Thorne's face began to quickly turn a deep, angry crimson. The mere notion that this woman, this young, civilian-dressed individual, was claiming to be part of an inspection team from the Joint Staff was, to him, utterly preposterous. Inspectors were invariably seasoned, grim-faced senior officers, typically men who carried an unmistakable military bearing, even when not in uniform. They did not resemble this woman, who could easily be mistaken for a professional consultant or perhaps a high-end realtor. "Are you genuinely accusing me of failing to read my own briefing materials?" he boomed, his voice echoing sharply off the concrete walls of the maintenance bay. "I know precisely who is scheduled for that inspection, and it is not you. I believe you have now said quite enough." He motioned more forcefully toward the lieutenant. "Jennings, get her out of here right now." Lieutenant Jennings stepped closer, his face a clear blend of dutiful obedience and palpable discomfort. "Ma'am, please, let us not allow this to become difficult." Amy finally shifted her gaze, turning her head to give the young officer a patient, instructional look. "Lieutenant, what is the very first action you are trained to take when you cannot immediately verify someone's authority?" The question completely caught him off guard. He stammered for a moment. I request identification, ma'am." "Precisely," Amy said, her voice adopting a new, calm quality, as if she were leading a teaching moment. "Let us proceed with that." She reached inside her handbag and smoothly produced a standard, nondescript government ID card. It was the type of access badge that did not loudly advertise her status, but was essential for electronic entry. She handed the card to him. Jennings accepted the card and walked over to a ruggedized laptop mounted on a steel tool cart nearby. Colonel Thorne watched the proceedings, his arms crossed, tapping the toe of an impatient boot on the oil-slicked floor. The entire motorpool was now silent and motionless. Every single soldier was observing, some with contained amusement, others with a growing sense of unease. This encounter was quickly spiraling beyond a simple misunderstanding. The lieutenant swiped the card. The screen instantly flashed a bright yellow alert box. "Access denied. Level 4. Clearance required." He tried the card again. Same result. He looked back and forth between Amy and his furious commanding officer. "Sir, it is not clearing. It indicates that a higher level reader is necessary." "Of course it does," Thorne spat dismissively, snatching the card away from the lieutenant's hand. He scrutinized it closely, as if his furious glare alone could reveal its secrets. "Harrington, Amy. It's likely a contractor badge for the new mess hall," he concluded, shoving the card back toward her. "This is completely worthless here." "It is not worthless, Colonel. Your current system is simply not cleared to read it," Amy stated calmly. "There is a verified card reader at the battalion headquarters that will function correctly." "I am not wasting another second of my valuable time escorting you to S1 to scan a fake ID," Thorne declared, fully exasperated. He was done. His authority had been aggressively challenged in front of his entire command, and he intended to terminate the situation immediately. "You are now officially trespassing on a restricted military area. I am formally ordering you to leave this installation. Should you refuse, Lieutenant Jennings will contact the military police, and you will be detained." Throughout the heated exchange, Amy's left hand had been resting against her thigh, her thumb and forefinger absently worrying a small, heavy object within her pocket. Now, as Colonel Thorne issued his conclusive threat, she pulled her hand out. In her open palm rested a coin, a thick bronze medallion, its complex features smoothed down and softened from years of constant handling. Thorne noticed the distinct movement, and his eyes narrowed instantly. "What is that? A souvenir from the Post Museum? Let me tell you something, lady," he scoffed. "Flashing a little trinket doesn't make you a veteran, and it certainly does not give you the right to impersonate a federal official." Amy's fingers tightened around the coin until her knuckles showed white. The harsh smell of diesel and sweat suddenly receded, sharply replaced by the ethereal ghost of ozone and cordite, and the intense, high-altitude chill of a helicopter cabin in the dead of night. She was no longer standing in a sun-baked Texas motor pool. She was suddenly in the dark, tightly cramped belly of a Blackhawk, the massive rotor vibrations rattling her teeth. The faces surrounding her were grim, smeared with camouflage paint, their eyes intense under the dim, red interior cabin light. A large hand, calloused and steady, had pressed this very coin into her palm, just moments before the ramp lowered into a churning storm of dust and rotor wash. It was not a souvenir. It was a marker, a profound debt paid, a silent acknowledgement from a world Colonel Thorne could not even begin to imagine. She forcefully brought her focus back to the present moment, her composed expression utterly unreadable. Across the expansive lot, partially obscured by the towering frame of a heavy, expanded mobility tactical truck, Command Sergeant Major Davies had been observing the entire interaction with a mounting sense of foreboding. He was a grizzled old soldier whose deep eye creases had been etched by tours in places like Fallujah and the Korangal Valley. He had initially been attempting to diagnose a stubborn engine knock when the colonel's raised voice first captured his attention. At first, he'd only seen Thorne severely berating some civilian, but something about the woman's unyielding posture, the way she held her ground, perfectly still, absorbing the colonel's fury without giving up an inch, pricked his memory. He wiped thick grease from his hands onto a red rag and squinted hard to get a better view. Dark brown hair, blue shirt. The name, faintly carried on the humid breeze, reached him. Harrington. Then it clicked. Not a small mental note, but a thunderclap of recognition in his mind. He had served with a Harrington. A remarkably sharp Major Harrington, an intelligence officer seconded to his logistics unit in Afghanistan. She was the one who had rerouted their entire supply convoy in the middle of a complex ambush, personally calling in air support and navigating them through an obscure side wadi, all while hunched over a flickering laptop inside a command vehicle. That day, she had essentially saved half his company. He vividly recalled her calm, precise voice over the radio, acting as a crucial beacon in the maelstrom of chaos. He crept closer, keeping a protective row of stacked tires between himself and the confrontation. He clearly saw the unique coin clutched in her hand. His blood ran cold. He absolutely recognized that coin. He had seen one just like it displayed prominently on the desk of a task force commander, a figure who reported to no one below the president. Colonel Thorne was currently threatening to have her arrested. Davies's mind went into overdrive. He knew he couldn't intervene directly. Thorne was a full colonel and the current brigade commander. Approaching him would be utterly futile. He needed to go over his head. Way over. He fumbled urgently for his personal cell phone, his thick, greasy fingers struggling with the small screen. He scrolled quickly through his contacts, past dozens of names, until he located the one he needed. M.G. Wallace Aide. He pressed the call button and immediately ducked fully behind the large truck, his heart heavily pounding against his ribs. The phone was answered on the second ring. "Captain Miller, sir, this is Command Sergeant Major Davies with the 7th log. I'm in Colonel Thorne's motor pool. You are not going to believe this, sir. We have a critical situation." He spoke in a low, intense whisper. "The colonel is about to have a civilian woman arrested for trespassing." "A civilian?" the aide asked, his voice noticeably tinged with annoyance. "Sergeant Major, I am certain the colonel is more than capable of handling a civilian." "Sir, you don't understand," Davies cut in, his voice strained with urgency. "Her name is Harrington. Amy Harrington. I think, sir, I think it's her." There was an immediate pause on the other end of the line. "Her who, Sergeant Major?" "General Harrington, sir," Davies breathed out. "The one from the Joint Staff. The one they called the Ghost. I think Thorne just threatened to arrest a 1-star general." The silence that followed on the line was absolute, and in that heavy silence, Davies knew with chilling certainty that the cavalry was already on its way. Inside the sprawling, air-conditioned headquarters of Fort Sheridan, Captain Miller stood frozen next to his desk, the phone still pressed to his ear. The words General Harrington and arrest were ricocheting violently in his brain. He burst into the office of his boss, Major General Wallace, without even knocking. "Sir, I just received a call from CSM Davies in the 7th Logistics Motor Pool." General Wallace looked up from a formidable stack of budget reports, his expression one of pure annoyance at the brazen interruption. Wallace was a physically large man, a former armor officer who wore the weight of his 2 stars with a non-nonsense gravity. "What is it, Miller?" "Sir, Colonel Thorne is detaining a civilian woman." Wallace rubbed his temples wearily. "And this requires my personal attention? Let Thorne handle it. He's a brigade commander, for God's sake." "Sir, CSM Davies is certain the woman is Brigadier General Amy Harrington." The name hung sharply in the air. Wallace's annoyance instantly vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowed intensely. "Are you absolutely sure? The Harrington from the J4 readiness team? She's not due to officially check in until 1400. "Davies is sure, sir. He served with her in Afghanistan. He says Thorne is accusing her of trespassing and is about to call the MPs." Wallace was already leaping to his feet, his face a mask of utter disbelief and rapidly mounting fury. He strode over to his computer terminal, Miller close behind. "Pull up the inbound distinguished visitor log for today. Now." Miller's fingers flew across the keyboard. A file appeared on the screen. There it was. Harrington, Amy L. Brigadier General, U.S. Army. Arrival 0900. Purpose, unannounced readiness assessment. 7th Logistics Brigade. Reporting directly to Joint Staff. Wallace stared at the screen, then back at his captain. "Unannounced. Thorne was supposed to get a potential visitor notice. Nothing specific. She was walking his lines before he even knew she was on post." He snatched his patrol cap from its peg on the wall. "Get my driver. Get my sergeant major. Tell them we are leaving right now. Move." Back in the sun-baked motor pool, Colonel Thorne had reached the absolute limit of his patience. The static hiss of a radio broke the tense silence as Lieutenant Jennings finally made the call. "Dispatch, this is Stallion 6 Actual. I require MP presence at Motor Pool 7. We have a civilian female refusing to depart a restricted area." Amy Harrington heard the call, but her composed expression remained completely unchanged. She simply looked at Thorne. "This is your final opportunity to de-escalate this situation, Colonel." Thorne laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "The only thing de-escalating here is you, into the back of a patrol car. I am finished. I want her processed for trespassing, and I want her investigated for impersonating a federal official." He gestured pointedly at her closed fist. "That little coin of hers is likely a cheap knockoff she bought online. Check her for fraudulent wear of military insignia." It was the final, unforgivable insult. He was not merely calling her a liar. He was branding her a fraud, a stolen Valor case, the lowest form of degradation in the military community. The ugly accusation hung in the thick, humid air. The MPs were just pulling up, their lights not yet flashing, but their presence added a layer of official gravity to Thorne's disastrous overreach. And then, another sound cut sharply through the air. Not a police siren, but the distinct, low-frequency whoop of command staff vehicles approaching at high speed. 2 black Suburbans and a polished staff car, complete with a general officer's flag mounted prominently on the fender, screeched to a halt at the edge of the asphalt lot, kicking up a cloud of dust and gravel. The doors flew open with practiced, urgent efficiency. Major General Wallace emerged from the staff car, his face dark as a thundercloud. His own command sergeant major, a man who looked as though he were carved from granite, was half a step behind him. They were flanked by several other staff officers, including a female lieutenant colonel who was already taking meticulous notes on a tablet. The entire motor pool went rigid. Tools clattered to the ground. The arriving MPs froze, unsure of the incredible scene unfolding before them. Every soldier present, from the lowest private to Lieutenant Jennings, instantly snapped to the position of attention. Every soldier, that is, except Colonel Thorne, who stood staring, utterly dumbfounded, at the two-star general now striding across his motorpool with the focused intensity of a missile seeking its target. Wallace didn't spare Thorne even a glance. His eyes were locked solely on Amy. He marched directly toward her, the gravel crunching loudly under his boots, and stopped precisely 3 paces in front of her. His back went ramrod straight. He snapped his right hand to his brow in the sharpest, most respectful salute Amy had ever received. "General Harrington!" Wallace's voice boomed, carrying clearly across the now deathly silent lot. "Welcome to Fort Sheridan. I want to personally apologize for the unprofessional and utterly disgraceful reception you have received from a member of my command." The word general struck the crowd like a physical blow. A collective, audible gasp rippled through the gathered soldiers. Colonel Thorne's face, which had been set in a mask of smug fury, seemed to instantly crumble. The color drained entirely from it, leaving a pasty, sickly white. The MPs looked at each other in sheer panic. Lieutenant Jennings looked like he might actually faint. Wallace dropped his salute only after Amy returned a crisp, absolutely perfect salute of her own. Major General Wallace then turned, not fully toward Thorne, but to address the entire assembly, his voice resonating with cold, unyielding authority. "For the education of everyone present," he began, his gaze sweeping across the mechanics, the MPs, and finally landing on the petrified Colonel Thorne. "This is Brigadier General Amy Harrington. For those of you who do not recognize the name, she is the same Major Harrington who single-handedly planned and executed the logistical supply chain reroute under direct enemy fire, saving the entirety of 3rd Battalion from being cut off. She is the same Lieutenant Colonel Harrington who served as the lead logistics planner for Operation Nightfall, ensuring every operator on that mission had the essential assets they needed, exactly when they needed them. She earned her Ranger tab when most of the men in this motorpool were still in grade school. She holds the Combat Action Badge, the Air Assault Wings, and the Bronze Star with a V for Valor." He paused, deliberately letting the crushing weight of her accomplishments settle over the silent crowd. "She is here today on my post, at the direct request of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to conduct a surprise readiness assessment of our most critical units. And you, Colonel," he finally turned his full, wrathful attention to Thorne, his voice dropping to a deadly quiet, "have just made her first impression of this command an unforgettable one." Thorne appeared to shrink visibly inside his uniform. He attempted to speak, but only a dry, croaking sound emerged. "You failed to follow basic verification procedures," Wallace continued, his voice cutting like glass. "You failed to show professional courtesy. You allowed your personal bias and your monumental ego to obstruct an official directive from the highest levels of the Department of Defense. You saw a woman in civilian clothes and you assumed. You assumed she was a spouse. You assumed she was lost. You assumed she was a liar. You assumed anything and everything except the one thing you are paid to do. You failed to assume she was a soldier. Your performance today has been an embarrassment to your rank, to this command, and to the uniform you wear." He turned to the pale Lieutenant Jennings. "You, son, will learn a valuable lesson from this. Procedures exist for a reason. Use them." He then turned back to Amy, his expression softening slightly. "General, my command is entirely at your disposal. I am profoundly sorry." Amy gave a slight nod, graciously accepting the apology. But instead of returning her focus to the inspection, she stepped forward and addressed the crowd of wide-eyed soldiers who remained frozen at attention. "Listen up," she said, her voice clear and strong, carrying easily across the lot. It was the unmistakable voice of a commander. "Your rank is on your chest for everyone to see, but your character is in your actions. The standards in our army are not suggestions. They are the bedrock of our profession. They apply to everyone, regardless of what they look like or what you think they look like. Your job is not to make assumptions. Your job is to know the standards, to follow procedures, and to apply them to every single person fairly and respectfully. Verify everyone. Trust your training, not your gut. That is how we maintain discipline. That is how we build trust. As she spoke, her hand, still holding the coin, felt warm. The scene in her mind flashed again, this time with perfect clarity. The dusty command tent, the glowing satellite map on the screen, a younger Major Harrington, her voice calm but insistent, speaking into a headset, redirecting air assets and a quick reaction force based on a piece of intelligence everyone else had dismissed. A grizzled Delta Force colonel standing behind her, listening intently. When it was over, when the exfiltration was successful and his team was safe, he had walked over. He hadn't said thank you. He had simply pressed the heavy coin from his own pocket into her hand. "You think like one of us. You got my boys home," he'd said gruffly. "This means you're family forever." The coin wasn't a medal to be displayed. It was a silent, sacred bond, and Thorne, in his profound ignorance, had tried to defile it. The aftermath was swift and decisively final. Colonel Thorne was immediately relieved of his command, pending a formal investigation that everyone knew had only one possible outcome. General Wallace personally escorted General Harrington for the remainder of her inspection, his entire staff treating her with a level of deference bordering on worship. Within 48 hours, a new mandatory training directive titled Professional Courtesy and Advanced Credential Verification was issued from post headquarters and disseminated to every unit on Fort Sheridan. The story of what happened in the 7th Logistics Motorpool spread like wildfire, instantly becoming a legend, a cautionary tale for arrogant officers and a vital source of pride for every woman serving on the post. Weeks later, Amy was finalizing her report in a temporary office at the Fort Sheridan Library. She was in civilian clothes again, a simple gray sweater and jeans. She headed to the base exchange to grab a coffee before her flight back to Washington. As she stood in line, a man hesitantly approached her. It was Marcus Thorne. He was not in uniform. He wore a simple polo shirt and slacks, and he looked smaller, diminished, the arrogance completely gone. "General Harrington, ma'am," he began, his voice quiet, his eyes fixed on the floor. There's no excuse for my behavior. I know that. I just wanted to find you before you left to apologize. Face to face." Amy looked at him, her expression neutral. There was no anger, no satisfaction, just a calm, professional assessment. "Your apology is noted, Mr. Thorne," she said, using his civilian title. "We all have blind spots. The important thing is what we do after they're pointed out to us. The Army is a smaller place than you think. We learn, we do better. Don't let your last mistake define your next chapter." She gave him a final, slight nod, then turned and ordered her coffee, leaving him standing there. A man stripped of his rank, but perhaps for the very first time, given a small seed of genuine wisdom. The courage to serve and the strength to lead come in many forms. If you were inspired by General Harrington's story, hit that like button, share this video to honor our women in uniform, and subscribe to She Wore the Stars for more incredible stories.